The storm began just as the fuel gauge hit empty. My phone had no signal, the road behind me was a ribbon of darkness, and the next town was 30 miles away. When I saw the faded neon sign, Pine Rest Motel, vacancy, flickering through the rain, I almost laughed in relief. The place looked abandoned except for one dim porch light and a soda machine buzzing like an insect. I parked, stepped out into the cold rain, and noticed the smell, metallic, like rust and something faintly sweet. Inside the office, an old man sat behind the counter, staring at a small black and white TV that wasn't plugged in. Without looking up, he rasped, "Room 17, cash only." He slid me a rusted key. No register, no receipt. When I asked about Wi-Fi, he smiled, not kindly but knowingly. "You won't need it. Not where you're going." His words hung in the air long after I walked away. When I reached room 17, I froze. The door was already slightly open. A single wet footprint, small, bare, and facing inward, led into the dark room. I told myself it was just the last guest, maybe housekeeping. But something about the room felt wrong the moment I stepped in. The air was colder, thicker, as if it resisted being breathed. The lights flickered once, then steadied. A queen bed sat under a cracked ceiling, sheets folded too neatly, corners too sharp. The carpet was damp underfoot. The walls smelled faintly of mildew and something coppery. I turned on the TV to drown the silence. Static, no signal. The only sound came from the bathroom. A slow, rhythmic drip. When I opened the door, the sink faucet was running. Not dripping, running. Steam fogged the mirror, though the water was ice cold. I wiped the glass. For a heartbeat, I saw someone standing behind me. A small figure, drenched, eyes like wet glass. I spun around. Nothing. Just my reflection. I laughed shakily. "You're tired. That's all." I shut the faucet, locked the bathroom door, and sat on the bed. The mattress groaned, sagging slightly, as if someone were sitting beside me. That's when I noticed the Bible in the drawer. Every page was blank, except the last. In faded ink, someone had written, "Don't open the window." I looked toward the window. The curtain moved, though there was no wind. I tried to sleep, but the rain had turned violent. The walls seemed to pulse with it, the ceiling quivering like lungs. Every time lightning flashed, I saw movement in the corners of the room, faint silhouettes that dissolved as soon as the light faded. At 2:14 a.m., I heard footsteps outside. Soft, slow, dragging footsteps. I peeked through the peephole. A woman stood there, soaked, hair plastered to her face, wearing what looked like a white nightgown. Her head tilted slightly as if listening. Then she spoke. "He's waiting for you." Her voice was hoarse, drowned by the rain. I didn't open the door. I couldn't. But a few seconds later, I heard the same voice inside the room whispering close to my ear. "He's waiting for you." I jumped up, heart pounding, flicked the lights on. Nothing. Just the empty bed, the closed bathroom door, the blank Bible on the nightstand. I checked the window. Still locked. The words "don't open the window" echoed in my mind. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw movement on the curtain. A handprint, small, wet, from the inside. I ran to the door, but it wouldn't open. No matter how hard I pulled, it felt like someone was holding it shut from the other side. Then the bathroom door creaked open by itself. The lights dimmed. The dripping had stopped. "Hello?" I whispered. No answer. But a soft humming began. A lullaby. The kind of song a mother sings to calm a child. It was coming from the bathroom. I stepped closer, heart hammering. Inside, the mirror was fogged again. But this time, there were two sets of handprints on the glass, one large, one small. And scrawled beneath them in dripping condensation were the words, "He said don't come back." I stumbled back, tripped over my bag, and something spilled out. A photograph. One I didn't remember packing. It showed me, standing in front of room 17. But the timestamp read 2 years ago. The old man's voice came through the static of the TV. "You shouldn't have come back," I shouted. "What is this place?" The voice crackled. "You checked in before. You never checked out." The TV flickered. Static, then faces. Dozens of them. Wet, pale, staring through the screen like glass. The woman from the hallway was among them, her lips moving silently. My phone lit up on its own. One new message. From unknown window. The curtain shifted. Lightning flashed. A small face, and the same one from the mirror, pressed against the glass from the outside, eyes wide and desperate. She mouthed something I couldn't hear. Against every instinct, I opened the window. The storm screamed in. Wind, water, voices, all at once. The girl climbed halfway through, clutching my arm with freezing fingers. "Help me," she whispered. "He's coming." "Who?" I asked. Behind her, in the darkness, a tall shadow began to form, blacker than the storm. Head tilted like it was too heavy for its neck. The girl's grip tightened. Then she was yanked backward, disappearing into the rain. I tried to slam the window shut, but the shadow's arm, long, wrong, jointed too many times, slid through and grabbed my wrist. It smelled of rot and cold earth. "You left me," it said in my voice. I screamed, kicked free, fell back. The room filled with static again, TV flashing images of myself, sleeping, drowning, standing at the window, repeating the same moment, and then silence. The lights went out. The door finally opened, on its own. Morning light spilled into the room through the half-open window. The storm had passed. The air was still. I stumbled outside, shaking, drenched in sweat. The office door was locked, the TV inside still flickering, showing snow. The old man was gone. My car sat exactly where I left it, but the plates were rusted over, unreadable. When I turned the ignition, it started instantly, like it had been waiting. As I drove away, I passed the motel sign again. The vacancy light flickered, then went dark. A mile down the road, I glanced in the rearview mirror. Room 17's curtain was open. A small girl stood there watching. Behind her, my own reflection stared back, from inside the room. That night, I stopped at another motel in another town. The clerk smiled and asked if I needed a room. Before I could answer, he slid a key across the counter. "Room 17, he said. "Cash only." Flight 328 was half empty that night. A red-eye from Istanbul to London, just me, a few scattered passengers, and the hum of engines like a pulse beneath the floor. My seat was 22A, window side. The aisle seat beside me, 22B, stayed vacant as boarding ended. I was grateful. More space, more quiet, until the plane door shut, the lights dimmed. And I heard a seatbelt click beside me. I turned. The seat was occupied. Someone, or something, was sitting there, not moving, face hidden by the hood of a dark coat. No one had passed me to sit down. I knew that. I looked toward the flight attendant at the far end of the cabin. She smiled faintly, too faintly, then walked away without a word. When the plane lifted into the storm, I caught a glimpse of the reflection in the window. The hooded figure beside me had no face. The hum of the engines lulled the cabin into uneasy quiet. The seatbelt sign pinged off and most passengers reclined or dozed. I didn't. The hooded passenger in 22B hadn't moved once since takeoff. No breathing, no shifting, no visible hands. I pressed the call button. A young flight attendant arrived, her smile practiced and tired. "Yes, sir?" "There's someone here." I gestured at the seat. "Who wasn't before?" "Are they supposed to be here?" She blinked once, glanced at the seat. "Who?" I froze. "Right there." 22B, her smile twitched. "Sir, you're in a row by yourself." She turned and left before I could say more. The engines deepened their pitch, like something groaning beneath the wings. The cabin lights flickered, just once, and for half a second, I saw the hooded figure's head tilt toward me. Then stillness again. I tried to ignore it, opened the in-flight magazine, but the pages were all blank. Every single one. On the last page, written in faint pencil, "Don't look outside." I turned instinctively toward the window and saw a reflection that wasn't mine. It was the figure's face, pale, hollow, eyes wide and sunken, staring directly at me through the glass. When I looked back, the seat was empty again. The plane hit turbulence. People gasped. Lights dimmed to a bruised yellow. Through the shaking, I caught the reflection again. Not beside me now, but behind me. In the dark of the aisle, a faint silhouette stood motionless. I turned to look. Nothing. But the air had changed. Cold, sharp, thinner. Every breath burned slightly. Then, over the intercom, a distorted voice. "Cabin crew, please prepare for..." The sentence never finished. The speaker hissed, crackled, went silent. The flight attendant walked down the aisle, face pale, lips moving soundlessly as she checked rows that no longer matched the seat numbers. Row 21, 22, 23, all gone. My row vanished. The plane seemed to stretch longer than before, like a hallway that wouldn't end. I stood up. "What's happening?" She looked at me. "You shouldn't have taken that seat," she whispered. 22B was never meant to be occupied. My blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" She hesitated. "We lost someone on this route. 2 years ago. Passenger in that seat. We never found him." The lights flickered again. Behind her, in the dark aisle, a figure loomed, the same hooded one. The same presence that had been beside me. The attendant turned, gasped, and vanished like mist. Then the cabin erupted in sound. Whispers, dozens of overlapping voices. Some pleading, some praying, some sobbing, all saying one thing: "Don't look outside." Lightning flashed outside, blinding white. Through the window, I saw shapes, people, suspended in the clouds, drifting alongside the plane, their faces pressed to the glass as if trying to get in. The hooded figure was standing now, right in the aisle. It turned toward me slowly, like every movement hurt. When it spoke, its voice was my own. "You sat here before." I shook my head. "No, you did. You never landed." The intercom crackled again. A different voice now, calm, mechanical, like a recording played too many times. "Flight 328 is descending. Please remain seated." The plane tilted sharply. Everyone screamed, but when I looked around, the other passengers were gone. All of them. Only the hooded figure remained, and in the next flash of lightning, it pulled its hood back. The face underneath was mine, eyes wide, skin wet, lips blue, mouth moving silently, then whispering, "You shouldn't have looked outside." The window beside me shattered inward, not from pressure, but from cold. Wind roared, pulling me halfway out as the storm swallowed everything. Through the chaos, I saw, for just a second, dozens of people, all strapped in, all dead, all staring blankly as if the flight had never ended. And then, stillness. I woke up to sunlight. The plane was quiet. Passengers chatting, seatbelt sign off, flight attendants smiling. It was morning. Had I dreamed it? I turned to the seat beside me, empty. Just the buckle, perfectly fastened, as if someone had been sitting there the whole time. The captain's voice came through. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to London Heathrow. Local time is 6:47 a.m. Relief washed through me. As I disembarked, I noticed a framed photo near the gate, a memorial plaque. "In memory of Flight 328, lost over the Black Sea, October 2019. My hands went cold. My boarding pass fell from my pocket. The print had faded, but one thing remained clear. Seat 22B. I almost missed the train. It was the last one out of Brasov that night, a single line heading into the mountains. Destination, Chernavoda. The station was nearly empty, fog rolling thick as breath. When the whistle sounded, the platform lights flickered, and for a second, I thought I saw someone standing at the far end. Still, thin, too tall for comfort. Then the train doors hissed open. I stepped aboard. Inside, the air smelled of iron and smoke. The only other passenger in my car sat 3 rows ahead, a man in a long black coat, hands folded, staring out the window. When I asked the conductor how long the journey would take, he frowned slightly. "Depends," he said. "Sometimes the train doesn't stop where it should." I laughed awkwardly, but he didn't. He punched my ticket and added quietly, "Don't get off if it's not dawn." The train lurched forward, and when I looked back through the window, the station was gone. Only fog, thick, endless fog. The rhythmic clatter of the tracks filled the cabin like a heartbeat. The old train's lights buzzed faintly, flickering with every turn. Outside, the landscape was a blur of black pine and moonlit mist. Inside, every sound felt amplified. The creak of wood, the metallic groan of wheels, and the faint hum of something electrical. The man in the black coat never moved. Not once. When the ticket inspector passed again, I noticed something strange. The man didn't have a ticket. The inspector hesitated beside him, frowned, and moved on quickly without saying a word. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. The carriage clock above the door was stuck at 3:17 a.m. The fog outside grew thicker until even the moon disappeared. And then, the train began to slow. I looked around. No one else seemed to notice. Through the window, faint lights appeared, a small station half swallowed by mist. The sign outside read, "Borov Station. but there was no such stop on the route. I had checked the map. Twice, the train came to a halt. The doors hissed open. No one got off. No one got on, yet I heard footsteps in the next car. Curiosity won. I stepped into the next carriage, expecting another empty row of seats, but this one was different. The seats were torn, the windows frosted from the inside, and the air smelled of rot and burned oil. My breath fogged in front of me, though the heater still hummed. At the far end sat a woman in an old-fashioned dress, her hair long and wet. She was humming softly, the same rhythm as the train's wheels. "Are you okay?" I asked. She stopped humming, turned slowly. Her eyes were black, not empty, not dark, black, like liquid ink. When she spoke, her voice was distant, echoing slightly. "It doesn't stop where you think it will." I stepped back. "What? We've been on this line a long time," she said. "He won't let it stop." The train jolted violently. I stumbled into a seat, hit my shoulder. When I looked back up, the woman was gone. Only her voice lingered, fading like static through the carriage. "Don't get off if it's not dawn." The doors between cars slammed shut on their own. When I returned to my seat, the man in the black coat was gone too. In his place sat a small object, an old, cracked pocket watch. The time, 3:17 a.m. The hands were moving backward. I tried to find the conductor, but the next car was locked. Outside, shapes moved through the fog, pacing the train, keeping speed with it. Tall, human-like silhouettes, too many joints, limbs bending wrong. Their faces brushed the windows as we passed through the dark. When the train slowed again, a new station appeared, no lights, no name. Only a single figure standing on the platform. It was the man in the black coat. He was waiting. The doors opened. No one else reacted. The passengers, all of them, sat perfectly still, eyes half open, breathing shallowly. Dead asleep. Or worse. I tried to call out, but my voice sounded distant, swallowed by the engine's hum. The man in the coat stepped aboard again, moving slowly down the aisle toward me. As he passed each passenger, their heads turned in unison, snapping toward him with a creak like old wood. When he reached my row, he stopped. His coat dripped, not water, but thick, dark liquid. He smiled faintly. "You bought the wrong ticket." I stammered. "Where are we going?" "We don't go anywhere," he said. "We arrive." He handed me the pocket watch, still ticking backward. "Keep this. You'll need it if you want to get off." The lights went out. The train screamed, metal against metal, the sound of something tearing itself apart. Through the windows I saw faces in the fog, hundreds of them, pressed against the glass, watching, whispering. One of them looked exactly like me. The train began to climb, tilting upward at an impossible angle. Seats tore loose. The roof groaned. The passengers' mouths opened silently, like they were all screaming, but the sound had been stolen. Then everything stopped. Silence. The train was still. I opened my eyes. It was daylight. I stumbled out into the morning light. The train stood on a rusted track that ended abruptly at a cliff. Below, fog, endless and white. No sign of life. No conductor. No passengers. The train was old, rust-eaten. The paint faded nearly white. The logo on its side read, Cernavoda Line, decommissioned, 1963. I looked at the pocket watch in my hand. Still ticking backward. Still 3:17 a.m. A whisper came from behind me. "Don't get off if it's not dawn." I turned. The man in the coat stood inside the last carriage, watching me from the doorway. He raised one hand, slow, deliberate, and pointed behind me. I turned to look. The fog was clearing. And in its thinning light, I saw the shadow of another train approaching the cliff. Full speed, headlights bright as suns. There was no track left. The neon sign flickered like it was trying to breathe. Vacancy, a single word gasping through static light in the middle of nowhere. Alex Parker killed the engine and stared through the windshield. The desert wind scraped dust against the glass, whispering across the hood of his rental car. Every other motel on the map had been miles behind. This was the only building for hours, a one-story row of faded doors and a buzzing office light. He checked his phone. No signal. When he stepped out, the air was colder than it should have been. The motel looked abandoned, but the front door creaked open before he could knock. A woman stood there, pale, smiling too politely. "Room's ready," she said. Alex frowned. "I didn't book anything." She slid a key across the counter. "Room 6. He glanced at the dusty register. His name was already signed in neat handwriting. Alex Parker checked in, 9:14 p.m. He looked back up, but the woman was gone. Introduction, 900 words. Room 6 smelled faintly of bleach and wet carpet. The air conditioner rattled, spitting cold air across yellow curtains. A single lamp glowed beside the bed, dim as though fighting off a heavier darkness pooling in the corners. Alex dropped his bag and sank onto the mattress, pulling out his phone again. Still no bars. The room felt lived in. A coffee mug sat on the table. A pair of men's shoes, worn leather, were tucked beneath the chair. The bathroom mirror was fogged as if someone had just showered. He laughed nervously. Guess housekeeping's lazy. He turned on the TV, static. Every channel. Then a faint creak. The door handle moved. He froze. The handle twisted once, twice, then stopped. No knock. He stepped closer, heart hammering, and yanked it open. Nothing. Just the hollow desert night. He looked down. A trail of wet footprints led from the door to the bed. The lamp flickered. Behind him, the TV cut to black. Then a grainy image appeared. A man sitting on the same bed, same clothes, same room. Alex's reflection stared back at him through the screen. He turned off the TV. The screen stayed on. Conflict development, 2,800 words. Sleep never came. The desert wind moaned through the vents. Shadows stretched too long under the door. He called out once, voice trembling. Hello? Anyone else here? The answer came as a whisper, through the TV. Why did you come back? Alex stumbled backward, hitting the wall. The screen showed the empty room again, except now the door inside the TV opened by itself, and from it someone stepped in. It was him. His own figure moved stiffly, face expressionless, eyes dark pits. The double turned its head toward the camera, then toward the real Alex, as if it knew he was watching. Stop it, he whispered. Stop this. The figure on screen sat on the bed, exactly as he had when he arrived, then pointed toward the window. Alex turned. Outside, under the buzzing neon, stood the motel clerk. She was motionless, staring up at room 6. Her face looked wrong now, blurred, like the pixels on the TV. He yanked open the curtain. She was gone. The reflection in the glass showed her behind him. He spun around. The room was empty. By dawn, Alex had packed. He threw his bag into the car and floored the accelerator. But no matter how far he drove, the road didn't change. Same scrubland. Same mile markers, and every few minutes, the same motel sign in the distance, glowing weakly. Vacancy. He passed it 3 times before he realized the truth. The highway was looping. The motel was pulling him back. Climax, 2,800 words. When he returned, or maybe when the road returned him, the clerk waited by the office door. You forgot to check out, she said softly. I'm leaving, he snapped. I'm done, she tilted her head. But you already left. He shoved past her, racing toward room 6, determined to find whatever was keeping him trapped. The room looked untouched, yet the bed was made perfectly, with a shape beneath the covers. He pulled the sheet away, a body, his. Skin pale, eyes open, mouth twisted in silent horror. The TV turned on again. On screen, his double stood behind him, smiling. The voice whispered, You checked in. You never checked out, Alex screamed. But the sound didn't fill the air. It echoed through the static instead, reverberating in the screen until the image froze. Then, silence. The door clicked. Room 6 was empty again. The sign outside flickered. Vacancy. Resolution, 1,800 words. Weeks later, a family on a long drive stopped at the same motel. The clerk smiled kindly, handing over a key. Room 6? The father asked. Always ready, she said. The boy peeked through the office window and frowned. Dad, why's that man just sitting there? Inside, through the curtain, they could see a shape on the bed, unmoving, watching the door. When the boy blinked, it was gone. They took the room anyway. That night, the TV came on by itself. The father laughed nervously. Probably old wiring. Then the screen cleared, showing a man sitting on the same bed, terrified, whispering words they couldn't hear. Under the image, a line of static text began to type itself. Checked in, 9:14 p.m. Name, Alex Parker. Status, occupied. Outside, the sign flickered again. Vacancy, then no vacancy. The guide was waiting at the edge of the road when they arrived. No footprints behind him. A thin man in a red parka, face shadowed by his hood, hand raised as if he'd been expecting them. "Welcome to Chotakonda," he said, voice hollow from the cold. Nadia brushed the snow off her gloves. "You're Sharma?" He nodded once. "Yes, I'll take you to the base before night." Behind her, her brother Ray muttered, "There's no way anyone lives up here." The sky was already bruising to black, and snow had started to fall again, silent, heavy. By the time they reached the first ridge, Nadia glanced back to see the car they'd arrived in vanish behind, a wall of white. She turned forward again. The guide was gone, only his footprints remained, leading into the fog. They followed his tracks anyway. The mountain wind howled like a living thing, threading between jagged rocks and skeletal pines. "Sharma," Nadia called. Her voice felt swallowed. "Hey, we're falling behind." No answer. When they finally found him, he was standing at the mouth of a cave. Not a shelter, more like a wound in the rock. "You'll stay here tonight," he said. Ray frowned. "Here? There's nothing inside." Sharma smiled faintly. "It keeps the mountain quiet." They followed him into the cave. A faint smell, old smoke, damp stone, something metallic. Nadia's flashlight swept over a cluster of carvings on the walls, rows of eyes scratched by hand. She shivered. "What is this?" "Pilgrims once passed through," Sharma said. They left their watchers behind. He sat by the mouth of the cave, facing the snow, as if guarding it. Nadia whispered to Ray, "Do you think he's even local?" Ray shrugged. "As long as he gets us down tomorrow." But by morning the guide was gone again. Only one set of footprints led away, Nadia's. They searched the slopes, shouting until their throats burned. No sign of him. No tracks but theirs. Then they noticed the carvings. There were more now, hundreds of eyes, newer, fresher. Ray swore under his breath. That wasn't there last night. Nadia knelt closer. The last line of eyes had names carved beneath them, faint, half buried in frost. One name was Ray. "Okay," he said, forcing a laugh. "Screw this. We're heading back." They packed fast, but the compass spun wildly. The fog deepened, turning the world featureless. By afternoon, they stumbled across a figure ahead, a man waving. "Sharma," Nadia shouted. He didn't move until they were close enough to see his face. It wasn't Sharma. It was a frozen body, eyes open, mouth filled with ice. The jacket, though, was red. Ray backed away, trembling. "We should have never," a whisper cut through the wind. "Keep moving." It was Sharma's voice, but it came from inside the cave behind them. They turned. The carvings were gone. Instead, a row of human faces seemed pressed into the stone, their mouths open. As if screaming silently, Ray grabbed Nadia's wrist. "We're leaving, now!" They ran downhill, the snow giving way beneath their boots. The sky was bleeding purple. Shadows stretched where no rocks stood. When Nadia looked back once more, she saw the guide walking behind them, calm, unbothered, his feet not touching the snow. Night came fast, unnatural. They couldn't tell where the sky ended and the ground began. Ray's flashlight flickered. "It's following us. Don't say that." He stopped. "Look." The guide stood ahead this time, not behind, blocking the narrow trail. His hood was down now. His face was blackened, frostbitten, half rotten. "You shouldn't have left," he said softly. "The mountain remembers." Ray lifted the flashlight like a weapon. "What do you want from us?" Sharma smiled. "Names." The beam flickered, and behind him the stone wall seemed to pulse. Hundreds of faces, frozen mid-scream, emerging and sinking again like something breathing. Nadia screamed and dragged her brother toward a gap in the rocks. The ground cracked beneath them, a hollow sound. They fell. When Nadia woke, she was back inside the cave, alone. The carvings looked new again, and among the eyes, she saw fresh names. Hers was the last one. "Ray," she whispered. From outside came his voice, distant, muffled by snow. "Nadia, help me." She ran out and found nothing, only footprints, leading away, not his, hers. Rescuers found her 3 days later, wandering barefoot across the ridge, clothes torn, whispering to someone who wasn't there. When asked what happened, she said, The guide took him. He wanted me to remember. Her rescuers exchanged uneasy looks. There is no guide here, ma'am. The last one died in 1989. She looked up at the nearest rock face. The snow melted just enough to reveal faint carvings. Rows of eyes, one name freshly etched beneath, Ray Parker. When she blinked, she thought she saw the guide again, red jacket, waiting at the road's edge, hand raised in greeting. The rescuers saw nothing. That night, when they packed to leave, one man checked the register of guides out of curiosity. The name Sharma was there, signed in dozens of times. Each one crossed out. Last entry, guide, Sharma, assigned to Nadia and Ray Parker. Status, returned alone, outside. In the swirling snow, faint footprints appeared beside the truck, leading toward the mountains. When the ticket clerk handed Haroon the boarding stub, his fingers were cold as bone. Last ferry of the night, the man muttered. You sure you want this one? Haroon smiled tiredly. Does it matter? He stepped aboard just before midnight. The fog rolled in like a curtain, thick, wet, silent. The ferry was half empty. A handful of passengers sat motionless, eyes down, as if waiting for something they didn't want to see. The engines groaned. The horn sounded, deep, mournful. As the vessel pulled away from the dock, Haroon noticed something strange. No lights on the shore, no sound but the sea. He leaned on the railing and looked back. The port was gone. Only endless fog remained, thick enough to erase the world. Behind him, a voice whispered, You missed the last return. He turned. No one stood there. Haroon had traveled often. Businessmen, always between borders. But this crossing felt wrong from the start. The deck was slick with seawater, though no rain had fallen. The crew moved quietly, heads down, avoiding his gaze. He noticed they all wore the same expression, weary, resigned, like people halfway through a nightmare they'd stopped fighting. He sat in the lounge, near an old woman clutching prayer beads. She never blinked, her lips moving soundlessly. A man beside her muttered, She's been praying since we left port. Haroon smiled politely. Rough sea? The man didn't answer. He only stared ahead, eyes unfocused. Through the porthole, Haroon saw lights flicker on the water, faint orange glows floating. He leaned closer, realizing they weren't buoys. They were lanterns, drifting slowly, each holding what looked like a photograph inside. One of them carried his own face. The ferry lurched. The lights vanished beneath the waves. When he looked again, his reflection in the glass wasn't moving with him. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time blurred with the fog. He found the captain's cabin after hearing metal scrape against metal below deck. The door was unlocked. Inside, navigation screens were blank. No radar, no GPS, and just static. The captain sat slumped in his chair. Sir? Haroon asked. No response. He stepped closer and froze. The captain's eyes were open but covered with a thin film of salt, like dried tears. His hand still clutched the wheel. The ferry was steering itself. Where are we going? Haroon whispered. A voice answered from behind him. Nowhere that's on the map. It was the old woman. She stood in the doorway, beads dangling from her hand. You should not have boarded this crossing, she said softly. This one only sails one way. He laughed nervously. You mean to Muscat? She shook her head. No, there's no port where this ferry goes. Then she pointed to the wall. Dozens of photographs were pinned there, faces of passengers, faded by salt and time. Each had a name scrawled beneath. His name was already there. Haroon Kazmi, seat 11A. He stumbled back. This is a joke. It has to be. But when he ran to the deck again, the ocean looked wrong, black, too still. The fog glowed faintly from beneath as if light came from the water itself. And when he leaned over the railing, he saw hundreds of faces staring back at him from beneath the surface. They moved with the tide, mouths opening soundlessly. The ferry horn blew again, long and low. This time it sounded like a cry. Panic spread across the ferry. The few passengers began whispering prayers, some trying to find the crew, but every door led back to the same hallway. Haroon pounded on a locked door marked Engine Room. It opened suddenly, revealing the man who'd sat beside him earlier. Soaked, eyes wide. You can't leave, the man rasped. We all tried. Who are you? Haroon demanded. The man laughed weakly. Same as you. Last-minute ticket. Last ferry. Behind him the engine hummed. No gears, no pistons. Just a massive heart-like shape pulsing in the dark, glowing faintly red. It wasn't metal. It was flesh. The sound, thump, 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 filled the corridor. The ferry was alive. Haroon staggered backward. What is this place? The man smiled sadly. You already know. Outside, a bell rang. The passengers stood, one by one, walking calmly to the railing. The fog opened before them like a gate, one by one. They stepped off, sinking silently into the glowing water. Haroon screamed for them to stop, but his voice came out muffled, like shouting through glass. Then he saw his reflection again, standing at the far end of the deck. Watching him, it raised a hand and smiled. The ferry horn bellowed. The deck lights went out. When they came back on, Haroon was gone. Days later, a coastal patrol found the ferry drifting, engines dead. No passengers, no crew. Only one thing left behind, a boarding list. Every name had a line through it, except one. Haroon Kazmi, Seat 11A, status, on board. The patrol captain stepped onto the deck, calling out. His voice echoed strangely, like the sea was answering him. He turned toward the railing and froze. A single lantern floated beside the hull. Inside it was a photograph of a man staring directly into the camera. Beneath it, written faintly in salt, last ferry of the night. As the captain leaned closer, a whisper drifted from the fog. Ticket, please. The horn sounded once more, deep, lonely, endless. The train stopped in the middle of nowhere, no announcement. No light but the moon's reflection on the tracks. Maria blinked awake, rubbing her eyes. Everyone else in the carriage seemed frozen, heads down, motionless. She leaned toward the window. A small platform stretched outside, half swallowed by mist. A single sign swung lazily on rusted chains, Station 119. She frowned. That wasn't on the route map. The loudspeaker crackled to life. Passengers transferring to Station 119. Please disembark. Her heart skipped. No one moved. The voice repeated, more urgent this time. Please, disembark. Then every light in the train went out. When they flicked back on, she was the only one left sitting. Outside, something in the fog waited. Tall, still, patient. And somehow, it was waving at her. Maria stepped onto the platform, her suitcase clattering behind her. The air felt heavy, metallic, the smell of iron and rain. The train doors closed behind her. Wait, she shouted, running back. But the train was already moving, disappearing into the dark without a sound. Only the mist remained. The station was small, a single bench. A rusted clock stuck at 12:14, and a ticket booth whose glass was cracked like a spider web. Hello? She called. Anyone here? A faint echo replied, her own voice, slightly delayed. She tried her phone. No signal. That's when she noticed movement inside the booth. A figure slouched behind the counter. Maria hesitated, then tapped the glass. Excuse me, what is this station? The man looked up slowly. His eyes were sunken, his skin pale as parchment. You weren't supposed to get off, he whispered. I didn't mean to, she said nervously. When's the next train? He stared at her for a long moment. No more trains tonight, she swallowed. Then when? His mouth twitched. They stopped coming. Years ago. Hours passed. Maria sat on the bench, watching fog drift like breath. The station clock never moved. 12:14. She tried walking down the tracks, but after a few minutes she found herself back at the platform. The same cracked bench, the same flickering lamp. The man in the booth hadn't moved. His head rested against the glass, eyes open but empty. She whispered to herself, I'm dreaming. I must be. Then a sound. Footsteps. She turned. A woman stood on the far end of the platform, face half hidden by a scarf. Did you miss your train too? Maria asked. The woman nodded slowly. Her voice was hoarse. We all did. Maria frowned. We? The woman pointed toward the benches. Shadows flickered there. Faint outlines of passengers sitting silently, fading in and out of view like reflections in smoke. Maria stepped closer, heart pounding. Who are they? The woman tilted her head. They're the ones still waiting. The fog thickened, and Maria noticed every shadow had luggage beside it. Some were old leather suitcases. Some were modern backpacks. One even looked like hers. Her breath caught. "I have to leave." The woman smiled faintly. "Then don't look back." She ran toward the signal tower at the end of the platform, its staircase rusted and half broken. At the top, the control room was filled with dust and cobwebs. Old train logs lay open on a desk. The last entry read, "Train 119, arrived 12:14 a.m. Status, terminated," below it. A final scribble in faint ink, "No passengers left. Do not open doors." Footsteps echoed below. Maria crouched behind the console, peering through the fogged window. The man from the booth was walking toward the tower, slowly, dragging something behind him. It was her suitcase. She backed away from the stairs, trembling. The man's voice drifted up, calm, rhythmic. "You shouldn't have left the train. You belong here now," she shouted. "Stay away from me." He stopped at the doorway, face illuminated by the single bulb. "You've already been here, Maria." She shook her head. "You're insane." He pointed toward the control panel. "Look." The dusty monitor flickered to life, showing black and white security footage. The same platform, the same fog. A woman stepped off the train, suitcase in hand. Maria watched herself on the screen, turning toward the booth. Then, she saw what happened next. The man never moved. He'd been dead the whole time. It was her reflection talking through the glass. The camera feed glitched. The date read 12:14 a.m., 1989. She gasped and stumbled backward. The man smiled faintly. "The station doesn't wait for trains," he said. "It waits for people to remember." The ground trembled. The fog roared. The tracks began to hum like something vast and ancient was approaching. A light appeared down the tunnel, blinding. White, soundless, Maria ran down the steps. Desperate, clutching her suitcase, she jumped onto the tracks, but the light didn't come from a train. It came from the fog itself. And then, silence. Morning sunlight spilled across the empty station. A freight train rumbled through, its whistle echoing across the valley. The conductor glanced out the window and frowned. "Wasn't this place closed decades ago?" His assistant shrugged. "Yeah, flood buried half of it in '89. As they passed, the conductor noticed a figure sitting on the platform bench. A woman with a suitcase on her lap. She waved at the train. He blinked. When he looked again, she was gone. Later that week, maintenance crews reported finding something buried near Station 119, an old suitcase rusted shut. Inside, they found a faded passport and a ticket stub. Passenger, Maria Iliescu train, 119. Arrival 12:14 a.m. Status, terminated. That night, on the same empty frequency where old train announcements once played, a faint voice whispered through the static. "Passengers transferring to Station 119. Please disembark." When Lily unlocked the Airbnb, everything was already unpacked. Her suitcase lay open on the bed. Her clothes folded neatly inside the wardrobe. Her perfume sat on the nightstand. She froze. She'd just arrived. The host's message still blinked on her phone. "Welcome. The key is under the mat. Enjoy your stay." And then, a second message. Time-stamped 5 days later. "Thank you for checking out. Hope you had a peaceful stay." She looked around. The curtains were drawn. The air smelled faintly of lavender and cigarette smoke. From the corner mirror, someone was watching her. Someone who looked exactly like her, but smiled just a little too slowly. Lily was a freelance photographer, chasing solitude through Europe after a breakup. The Prague booking looked perfect. Quiet apartment, beautiful view of the river, minimalist design. The host, a woman named Lenka, had dozens of 5-star reviews. The photos showed a cozy studio, white walls, a large mirror, soft light. But when Lily arrived, the key was already in the lock. Inside, the apartment was spotless, except for one detail. Every mirror was draped in white cloth. She laughed nervously. Maybe superstition? She started unpacking, but when she opened the wardrobe, her breath hitched. Her clothes, the same ones she'd packed, were already hanging there. She checked her bag. Empty. Then she found her own handwriting in the apartment guest book. "Thank you. Lenka, I finally slept without dreams. Lily T. February 14, but it was only February 9th. That night, Lily couldn't sleep. The apartment felt too still. Every sound, pipes, wind, footsteps, echoed like memory. She turned on her phone to message the host. But no signal, no Wi-Fi. The network name had changed to The Mirror Guest. Then, a ping, a photo message. It was a picture of her sleeping, but she was still awake. At 3:12 a.m., she tore the cloth off the main mirror. Her reflection blinked. She froze. Slowly, the reflection smiled. A small, delayed twitch of the lips. Lily whispered, "Who are you?" The reflection whispered back, "You checked out." Her phone buzzed again. A message from Lenka, host. "You must cover the mirrors before night." It remembers faces. She dropped the phone. The lights flickered. In the mirror's reflection, the apartment looked slightly different. Dustier, emptier, like it hadn't been lived in for years. And there, in the reflection, a second suitcase sat by the bed. Her old one, from her last trip to Prague, the one she'd lost. Desperate, Lily ran to the door. The knob wouldn't turn. Through the peephole, she saw movement. Someone standing in the hallway, holding a camera. Flash. The bulb inside the mirror flickered white. For half a second, she saw herself outside, watching. The reflection stepped forward. She smashed the mirror with a chair. Glass rained across the floor, but instead of shards, the inside showed a dark hallway stretching into nothingness, and faintly, she heard her own voice calling, "Help me!" The voice came from inside the mirror. Shaking, she stepped closer. The air grew cold. She could see her reflection again, only this time it was older, tired, dressed differently. The reflection whispered, "You already stayed here. Don't make it happen again." Then it reached out, fingertips pressing against the glass, and the glass didn't hold. Lily stumbled backward as something cold and heavy crawled through her own body. Drained and gray, eyes open but hollow, the figure smiled gently and said, "I'll take it from here." Then the lights went out. 5 days later, the cleaning lady entered the apartment. Everything was neat. A note on the bed read, "Thank you, Lenka. I finally slept without dreams." In the guest book, a new entry appeared beneath the old one. Same handwriting, same name. Different date, February 14th. When Lenka arrived to inspect the room, she sighed. Another mirror guest. She carefully covered the mirror with white cloth again, whispering in check, "Rest now." As she turned to leave, her reflection in the mirror didn't move. It smiled. The ocean was calm, the kind of calm that made the air heavy, like the sea itself was holding its breath. Passengers leaned over the railings of the cruise ship Erebos, staring into endless white fog. The horizon was gone. Even the water looked muted, dull, like ink mixed with milk. And then, from somewhere below deck, a single sound echoed. Not mechanical, not human. A low, resonant hum. The fog lights flickered. Someone screamed. When the crew arrived, they found an empty deck chair beside the railing, a half-finished cocktail still sweating in the mist, a gold wedding ring sitting on the armrest. The ocean didn't move, but the reflection in the water moved first. Julian Marr, 38, boarded Erebos as part of a solitude voyage after his wife's death. The cruise promised silence, calm seas, and detachment. 10 days of peace across the Atlantic. But from the first night, something was wrong. No signal. No stars. Only fog. The captain's voice over the speakers was calm, rehearsed. A brief atmospheric phenomenon. Nothing to fear. The passengers still smiled. Too much. Too long. Like they were all in on something. At dinner, Julian met Mira, a quiet woman who claimed she'd been on the same ship before. "This route," she said, stirring her glass, "always disappears in the fog." Julian laughed nervously. "That's comforting." She didn't smile. "We never dock. We only return when the fog lets us." That night, Julian dreamed of the sea filled with faces, floating upward like bubbles. When he woke, the ship had changed direction. No one would say where it was heading. Day 3. The fog thickened. No sunrise. The clocks stopped. Julian walked the deck and realized there were no birds, no waves, no sound except the steady hum below. He met the captain once, briefly, an old man with a face like carved driftwood. "We are between destinations," the captain said softly. "Don't look too long into the water. It remembers." That night, at dinner, the table beside Julian's was empty, but half-eaten food remained, glasses still wet with fingerprints. When he asked the waiter about the missing guests, the man blinked slowly and said, "They disembarked." "Where?" "Into the fog." Julian tried to laugh it off. But later, he saw people walking calmly into the mist at the edge of the deck. Disappearing soundlessly, he found Mira again, sitting by the observation window, pale and trembling. "You're not supposed to talk to the ones who left," she whispered. "What do you mean?" "They come back at night." That night he saw them, pale silhouettes outside his porthole, faces pressed to the glass. Their mouths opened and closed like they were speaking underwater. He pressed his hand to the glass, and it was cold from the inside. Then a voice whispered in his ear, though no one was there, "You shouldn't have come alone." Julian turned on the cabin light. His reflection in the mirror was smiling. By day 6, the ship's corridors had changed. Doors led to other hallways. Rooms repeated. The dining room was empty, but still played soft jazz. Julian followed the sound of the humming, deeper into the engine deck, where the fog seeped through cracks in the walls. Mira was there, standing beside the open hatch. "Do you want to know what's below?" He hesitated. "The engines?" "Not engines, memories." She lifted her hand. It was covered in frost. "Every passenger who drowns is remembered here. The ship collects them." He looked down into the hatch. The space below wasn't mechanical. It was vast, filled with faces swirling in black water. They looked up at him. One of them was his wife. "Come home, Julian." He screamed and stumbled back. Mira smiled softly, eyes glistening. "The sea gives back what it keeps, but only for those who forget." He ran for the upper deck, the fog glowing faintly blue now, as though lightning lived inside it. The passengers stood in neat rows, silent, facing the water. The captain stood at the front, murmuring, "Welcome home." The fog moved, swallowing the deck. Julian tried to jump, but the fog was already solid, already around him. He saw his reflection in the water again. It smiled, and then it climbed out. A week later, the Erebos was found drifting near the Norwegian coast, empty, no distress call, no sign of struggle. In the captain's log, the last entry read, "Visibility poor, crew calm." All passengers accounted for. The investigation closed quietly. Mechanical failure. Probable sinking. Months later, a new cruise ship under the same name was launched. Among the promotional photos, one picture stood out. The passengers waving from the deck. At the back of the crowd, near the railing, a man's face was turned toward the camera, pale, expressionless. Julian Marr. Behind him, the fog was rolling in again. The ticket collector didn't remember him boarding, but the man in Seat 47A, pale, quiet, wrapped in a black coat, had a valid ticket, stamped, signed, date, January 13th, 1994. It was 2025. The collector smiled uncertainly. "Old print," he said. "System error." The passenger didn't respond. He just stared out the frosted window where the night blurred against itself, snow, darkness, and something else moving beside the train. Hours passed. The train didn't stop. When the conductor checked the map, the GPS showed the same coordinate repeating over and over, 56 degree and 85 degree E, middle of nowhere. And then the speakers crackled. A voice whispered through the intercom, low, distorted, almost familiar. "Please remain seated until your journey ends." Ethan Cole, 41, was traveling from Moscow to Irkutsk for a documentary project about forgotten towns along the Trans-Siberian line. He'd taken dozens of trains before, but this one, train 717, was strangely unlisted. Booked through a friend of a friend. "Quiet route," they'd said. "Locals only." The passengers seemed normal enough. An old couple murmuring in Russian, a teenage boy sketching, a woman in a nurse's coat reading a newspaper. But something about the silence was wrong. No phones, no chatter, no announcements. Every few hours Ethan would glance at the clock, and every time it read 3:17 a.m., he laughed nervously. Time zones, right? But outside, the darkness never shifted. The snow never stopped. On the third day, the woman across from him spoke without looking up. "You'll get used to it." Used to what? The night. By the fourth day, Ethan realized the train hadn't stopped once. Not for food, not for fuel, not for passengers. The staff avoided eye contact. The same meals repeated: soup, bread, tea. Identical every time. He tried to open the carriage door between sections. It was locked. The windows were sealed. The Wi-Fi network name was Train 717 Forever. He laughed again, but it came out hollow. When he slept, he dreamed of the same sound, distant wheels screeching on endless tracks, and a faint voice whispering his name from the next cabin. Ethan. Wake up. He woke once to find the seat beside him occupied. A young man staring at him with eyes too wide, skin frostbitten pale. We were on the same trip before, the man said softly. What do you mean before? You don't remember. You get off, you board again. It's always 3:17. Ethan blinked, and the seat was empty. He searched the train for the conductor. The doors between cars groaned like they hadn't been used in decades. When he reached the control cabin, the windows were completely fogged. Inside, a figure sat motionless in the engineer's chair. Skin gray, eyes glassy, hands frozen to the levers. But the train still moved. He backed away slowly. Then, he saw the reflection of the engineer blink. Though the body hadn't moved, panic finally cracked through his composure. Ethan forced open the side door. Between cars, the snow outside blinding white. The world frozen in mid-storm. He couldn't even tell if they were moving. Then a voice came over the intercom again. Please remain seated until your journey ends. He screamed into the corridor. Who's speaking? Where is this train going? Static. Then, you were already there. He stumbled back toward the passenger car. Everyone was staring straight ahead now, eyes open but lifeless, breathing in sync with the rhythm of the train. He grabbed the boy's sketchbook, page after page of the same drawing. A black train moving through snow, endless and empty. No beginning, no end. And on the final page, his own face. He threw the notebook aside and ran to the emergency exit, only to see his reflection in the window. But this reflection smiled. You missed your stop. The train lurched violently. The world outside flickered. Snow, stars, then darkness. For a moment, he saw dozens of trains beside his, all moving parallel in silence, filled with other passengers staring blankly into the void. When he woke, the carriage was warm again. The sun was shining. A young attendant approached with a smile. Tea, sir? He blinked. The clock read 9:45 a.m. The intercom chimed pleasantly. Now arriving in Irkutsk. Thank you for choosing train 717. Relief flooded him. Maybe it had all been exhaustion, a dream, an overactive mind. He packed his bag, stepped into the aisle, and froze. Every passenger around him was sitting perfectly still, eyes open, smiling faintly. The sun outside didn't move. He looked at his ticket, still stamped January 13th, 1994. The train rolled onward, past the same frozen trees, past the same mountains, under the same endless white sky. The intercom whispered again, Please remain seated until your journey ends. Ethan sat down. His reflection in the window smiled, a little too slowly, and mouthed, Welcome back.